Hi, this video is on the 2016 Econ 2 paper for the new AQA AS Economics course. We'll be looking at questions 6 to 10. So let's start with question 6. The table below shows how the index of GDP and the index of population changed in an economy between 2011 and 2015. Which one of the following can be inferred from the data? So let's first have a look at the data. So we've got the period between 2011 and 2015, and we have GDP and population. Both of these variables are indexed as a value of 100 in the year 2013. So if we look at GDP, we can see that the value was constantly increasing throughout the period shown. In 2011 it was 92, 2012 96, 2013 100, 2014 101 and 2015 103. Also, population was increasing throughout the entire period. In 2011 it was 97, and then in 2015 it was 103. Option A says the population was higher than GDP in 2011, and we cannot say this because the numbers have been indexed. We don't actually know the actual value of GDP and the population, so A is wrong. B says between 2011 and 2013, GDP grew by 8%, whereas population grew by 3%. In order to work out the percentage change in GDP between 2011 and 2013, we do the value in 2013, which is 100, minus the value in 2011, which is 92, and then we divide this by the value in 2011. So we do 100 minus 92 divided by 92, and this gives us a value of 8.7, which is not 8%. Therefore, B is wrong. Option C is there was no growth in GDP per capita between 2013 and 2015. There are two ways in which we can work out the change in GDP per capita. One way is to divide the index value for GDP by the population. So we do 100 divided by 100 in 2013. This gives us an index value of 1. Then we go to 2015 and we do the level of GDP, which is 103, divided by the population, which is 103. So 103 divided by 103 is also 1. Therefore, there is no growth in GDP per capita between 2013 and 2015 because the index value of GDP per capita was 1 in 2013 and it was also 1 in 2015. The other way is to compare the percentage changes in GDP and the percentage changes in population. If they change by the same amount between 2013 and 2015, it means that GDP per capita is the same. If they changed at different amounts, then it means that GDP per capita is either risen or fallen. So between 2013 and 2015, the percentage change in GDP was 3%. We get this by doing 103 minus 100, all divided by 100. So 3 divided by 100 gives you 3%. The population change is also 3% because 103 minus 100 divided by 100 is 3. Therefore, C is the correct answer. Option D is wrong because the question doesn't tell us anything about real GDP or the rate of inflation. So we cannot say whether this is correct or wrong. Let's now move on to question 7. As a consequence of a severe global recession, an economy has experienced a demand-side shock and is now growing below its trend rate. All other things being equal, which one of the following combinations, A, B, C or D, is most likely to exist in this economy? So the two variables that we're looking at in this question is the rate of unemployment and the rate of inflation. If there was to be a severe global recession, it is likely that global demand for your domestic goods and services is going to fall. This would mean that you export less to other countries, and this would cause aggregate demand to shift inwards. Now we will be at a position where the economy is producing less goods and services, and as labour is derived from the demand of the final good, it means that the amount of employment in the economy is likely to fall. If the amount of employment in the economy falls, it means the level of unemployment rises. So for the first column, the rate of unemployment, we're looking for it to increase. So it's either option C or D. A severe global recession will result in the demand for commodities reducing, and this would result in the price of these commodities falling. This means that domestic firms are able to purchase these commodities at lower prices, and this means that they are able to produce goods and services at a lower price. So the rate of inflation would likely fall. So the answer to this question is C. Question 8 asks, in which one of the following situations could the UK be said to be experiencing a negative output gap? A negative output gap is where the economy is producing less goods and services than it could produce if it was using all of its factors of production. It is where the economy is at a point which is inside its PPF curve. And the only option that describes this is B. B says real GDP in the UK is less than the economy's productive potential. So the answer to this question is B. Option A is all to do with productivity. It says that output per worker is lower in the UK than it is in the US, and this means that the productivity of workers is lower in the UK than the US. Option C says UK firms do not have sufficient productive capacity to satisfy customer demand, and this means that there would be inflation in the economy, and this is known as demand pull inflation. The final option is D. The skills possessed by UK workers do not match those which are required by UK employers. This option is describing structural unemployment and occupational immobility. So let's move on to question 9. Structural unemployment is most likely to occur because of ... Structural unemployment arises because there is a mismatch between the skills that the unemployed have and the skills that are required to obtain a job in that location. It arises because there are long-term changes in the pattern of demand for products in particular industries. In the UK in the 1970s and 80s, a lot of factories shut, and this led to unemployment. The unemployed individuals had skills in manufacturing, but the jobs that were available at that time did not require those skills, and the workers did not have the correct skills in order to obtain the jobs that were available at that time. This led to structural unemployment. The answer for this question is therefore D. Long-term changes in the pattern of demand for the products of particular industries. Option A says labour being temporarily unemployed when moving between jobs, and this is known as frictional unemployment. B is fluctuations in the level of aggregate demand, and this has nothing to do with structural unemployment. Option C says the seasonal nature of certain occupations, and this is describing seasonal unemployment. This brings us on to the final question in this video, which is question 10. An economy is in macroeconomic equilibrium, producing at its normal capacity level of output. Without long-run economic growth, a persistent increase in aggregate demand is likely to lead to an increase in the level of ... So in the question we are told the economy is producing at its normal capacity level of output, and there is no long-run economic growth. So this means the long-run productive potential of the economy stays fixed, and we're already producing the maximum amount of goods and services that we can produce. If there was to be an increase in aggregate demand, it would mean that aggregate demand would shift outwards. As our economy is already producing its long-run productive potential, it means that there will be no change in output because of this increase in aggregate demand. The increase in aggregate demand would only result in an increase in prices, and this is known as demand pull inflation. Thus, the answer to this question is D. GDP will not change because we are already producing at our productive potential. Employment will not change because all of our resources are being employed, both land, capital and labour. And finally, productivity won't change because there's no innovation or investment on the supply side of the economy. So the only answer for this question is D. There are videos for the rest of this past paper and you can find these on YouTube. Alternatively, you can click the link in the description below, which will take you through to the website.